Once we're married, I'm not doing housework. If you want things done, hire someone. She said it on a Friday night, calm, steady, as if she were reading a line from a contract rather than talking about marriage. The soft light from our apartment brushed across her face, elegant, composed, and completely free of tension. I looked at her, half smiling, thinking maybe she was joking. But Madison never jokes. She's the kind of person who always knows what she wants, who says exactly what she means, and measures every reaction. I asked quietly, "What do you mean?" Without looking up from her laptop, she replied, "I don't do housework. You know how busy I am. If things need cleaning, cooking, or organizing, hire someone. Or you can do it. I don't really care as long as it gets done." Her tone was even, not insulting, not sarcastic, just factual, like she was discussing tomorrow's weather. But I felt something cold crawl up my spine. We were sitting at the dining table, surrounded by papers, budgets, guest lists, wedding venue options. We were planning our wedding. Everything looked organized, color-coded, thought out. Every dollar accounted for. Every detail optimized. And then she dropped that line, not in anger, not in jest, but with absolute certainty. "You're serious?" I asked. Madison finally looked up, her eyes steady. "Of course. You think I'd lie about something like that?" I laughed awkwardly, trying to keep things light. "I just thought, that's something couples usually share. You know, like chores, cooking." Madison tilted her head slightly, her tone smooth but firm. "Ethan, I work 12 hours a day. I'm not going to come home and scrub floors. If you want that kind of woman, you picked the wrong person." The way she said it, cold but confident, carried that same assertiveness I used to love about her. The difference was, this time, it didn't sound admirable. It sounded final. I didn't respond right away. She poured herself a glass of wine, sat back, and continued, "It's not a big deal. We can hire someone. I'll manage the costs. You can handle the scheduling. You're good at logistics. I just don't want to waste energy arguing about dishes or laundry. It's inefficient." She wasn't angry. She was managerial, like she was setting up a business workflow. I asked softly, "And what do you plan to do when you get home then?" She smiled faintly. "Relax. I've worked all day. I deserve to rest. You should too. We're both professionals. We make good money. Why waste time on menial stuff?" It sounded logical, dangerously logical. But somewhere inside me, something heavy shifted, because love, to me, was built on the small, shared things, not just efficiency. My name's Ethan, 32. I'm a software developer. Madison's 29, an interior designer, sharp, ambitious, immaculate. She's always known what she wants. That's part of what drew me to her. I thought I was falling in love with independence. Maybe what I didn't see was that her version of independence left no room for partnership. Dinner passed in near silence. When I got up to clear the table, she watched me for a moment before saying, "See? You're faster than me anyway." I didn't reply. Just the sound of running water and dishes clinking echoed in the room, soft but somehow distant, like the noise came from another life. When I sat beside her later, I said carefully, "Mads, I'm not asking you to do chores. I just thought, when two people get married, it's about sharing. Not obligation, just togetherness." She looked at me with that calm, unblinking gaze. "You're romanticizing marriage. It's not about togetherness. It's about practicality. I'm just being realistic. That word, realistic, cut deeper than I expected. With her, everything had a structure. Love, commitment, intimacy, all of it was categorized, rationalized, explained. I used to think it was what made her mature. Now, it made her feel distant. That night, she watched a documentary about architecture while I finished some code for work. Halfway through, she turned and said, "You know, we're perfect together. No drama, no arguments, everything organized. That's why we'll last." I smiled, but inside, something wilted. Her "will last" didn't sound like a promise. It sounded like a forecast. She fell asleep early. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the fridge. In that silence, I thought about my parents, my dad teasing my mum while chopping vegetables, my mum laughing as she stirred the soup. They didn't talk about efficiency. They didn't plan everything. They just lived, and somehow, that chaos, that ordinary, messy, human chaos, was what made it beautiful. Would Madison ever understand that? The next morning, she was back to normal. Hair tied neatly, perfume soft, coffee brewing. She kissed my cheek, smiled, and said, "Don't forget to call the venue today, okay? Oh, and maybe look into cleaning services while you're at it. The sooner, the better." Then she was gone. I sat at the table for a long time, staring at her empty cup. The faint trace of her lipstick on the rim looked like a brand, perfect, deliberate, and cold. Maybe this wasn't love anymore. Maybe it was just another project, another plan built on control and balance sheets, where affection was calculated and efficiency replaced warmth. I wasn't angry, not even sad, just hollow. The kind of hollow that comes when you realize the person you love doesn't really say "we only I." And when that truth sinks in, you understand something fundamental has already changed. She brought it up 3 days later, over breakfast. It wasn't dramatic. Madison never did drama. She waited until I was halfway through my coffee, reading an email from work, before sliding a folder across the table. "We should talk about this," she said. I looked at the folder, cream-colored, thick, labeled neatly in her handwriting, "Prenuptial agreement." The words looked too calm for what they meant. "A prenup?" I asked, setting down my mug. "You want a prenup?" "It's standard," she replied, taking a bite of her toast. "Honestly, it's smart. My lawyer suggested it after we finalized the venue contract. She said it's good to have everything clear before the wedding." Her tone was light, professional. You'd think she was talking about car insurance. "Madison," I said slowly, "we've been together for years. We've shared a home for 2. Why would you need a contract to protect yourself from me?" She folded her napkin neatly. "Because it's not about protection from you, Ethan. It's about protecting both of us. Clarity prevents resentment." She used that word again, clarity. The same word she'd used when she divided house chores like project deliverables. Clarity, to her, meant control. I picked up the folder but didn't open it. I didn't need to. I already knew what was inside. Lines, clauses, signatures, safety nets. "You don't trust me," I said quietly. She frowned. "Don't make it emotional. This is just logic. You make good money now, but things change. I have my own assets, my own business. It's not about love, it's about foresight." "That's exactly what makes it emotional," I said. She sighed, the way people sigh when someone refuses to see their logic. Ethan, everyone I know has one. It's not personal. You just said it's not about love, I murmured. Maybe that's the problem. She put down her fork, eyes sharp now. You're twisting this. You think love means ignoring reality. I think love means being prepared for it. Prepared for what? I asked. Failure. For the first time, her expression cracked, just slightly. For life, she said. For whatever comes. I nodded slowly, feeling something inside me harden. You sound like you're preparing for war. Or avoiding one, she said. That answer was too quick, too polished, like she'd rehearsed it. Maybe she had. Maybe she'd been thinking about this for weeks. The rest of breakfast was silent. I didn't look at her, and she didn't push. When she left for work, she kissed me on the cheek, like everything was fine, like we hadn't just drawn a line across the middle of our lives. I sat there after she left, staring at the folder. The apartment was quiet except for the ticking of the clock. I didn't open it. I didn't need to read the legal language to know what it said. What mattered wasn't the words. It was the message beneath them. I don't trust you enough to let go of control. That night, she came home late. She was in good spirits, chatting about a new client and a design proposal. I didn't mention the prenup. She didn't either. We moved around each other like two people in a careful dance. Polite, efficient, distant. But something had shifted. Something invisible but heavy. Later, when we were getting ready for bed, she said, I emailed you the draft. Just look it over. We can sign it next week. Okay, I said. Ethan, don't be like that, she said softly. You're making it bigger than it is. I'm just trying to understand what marriage means to you, I said. She met my eyes in the mirror. It means partnership. Partnership built on what? She smiled faintly. On terms we both agree to. Her reflection looked flawless, hairpinned, makeup subtle, posture perfect. For a moment, I wondered if there was any part of her life that wasn't curated, calculated, or controlled. When she turned off the light, I lay awake, staring into the dark. My mind kept replaying her words. On terms we both agree to. It wasn't love. It was negotiation. The next morning, I opened the document. It was as precise as I'd expected. Her lawyer must have spent hours on it. Sections, subsections, fine print. It detailed property division, financial independence, even clauses about future business earnings. I scrolled through page after page until I reached a part that froze me. Household management, domestic labor, and service contracts to be financially compensated at the discretion of the managing partner. Madison Pierce. She'd turned our future home into a company. She was the managing partner. I was the labor. When she came home that evening, I had the document open on the counter. Madison, I said quietly, what is this line? She looked at it, then at me. It's just legal language. It doesn't mean anything personal. It says, you're the managing partner, I said. She shrugged. You know how lawyers write. It's symbolic. I handle finances. You handle logistics. It's how we already operate. I studied her face, calm, unreadable. She wasn't trying to manipulate me. That was what made it worse. She genuinely believed this was rational, logical, fair. I closed the laptop. Do you realize how this sounds? She exhaled slowly. Ethan, I'm not trying to insult you. I just don't want misunderstandings later. People break up over stupid things: money, chores, expectations. I'm preventing that. I looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't see my fiancée. I saw a strategist, someone building a fortress and calling it a marriage. I don't think we're preventing a breakup, I said. I think we're scheduling one. Her eyes narrowed slightly, but she said nothing. Instead, she picked up her wine glass and walked to the balcony, gazing out at the city lights. You'll feel differently tomorrow, she said. I didn't. The days that followed were quiet, mechanical. We still went through the motions. Dinner, small talk, wedding planning, but every interaction felt rehearsed. Her laughter sounded practiced. My silence became routine. One evening, while she was on a call, I opened her planner, a leather-bound book she carried everywhere. Inside, I found lists, not just for work, but for us. Household systems, budget allocation, behavioral triggers, Ethan. Under that last one, she'd written, avoid emotional escalation, present logic calmly, redirect with future goals. It wasn't malice. It was management. I closed the book, set it down, and walked to the window. Outside, the city looked calm, orderly, lit, predictable. Just like her, that night, she found me standing there, staring out. You're quiet lately, she said. I'm thinking, I replied. About what? About us, she smiled. Good. That's what responsible adults do. I turned to her slowly. Do you ever think about what love is supposed to feel like? She laughed softly. Feelings fade, Ethan. Systems last. Systems don't hold you when you're scared. I'm not scared, she said simply. And she wasn't. Madison didn't do fear. She did order. She did control. She did efficiency. But me. I was starting to wonder if I'd fallen in love with a person or a plan. When she went to bed, I stayed up late, reading the prenup again. I noticed a blank space at the end, waiting for my signature. It looked simple, just one name, one pen stroke. I stared at that space for a long time, and I realized something. The moment I signed it, I wouldn't just be agreeing to her terms. I'd be agreeing to disappear inside them. I didn't get angry. I didn't even feel hurt. When emotion drains out, what's left is clarity, sharp, quiet clarity. That night, after Madison fell asleep, I sat alone in the living room. The lights were dim, the air still. The prenup folder sat in the drawer beside me, closed, heavy, patient. I wasn't thinking about whether to sign it. I was thinking about where I was in all of this. Madison always had a plan. She scheduled her life down to the minute, what to eat, what to wear, how to respond to people, even how to express affection. Love, for her, wasn't spontaneous. It was structured. And maybe for a long time, I mistook that structure for strength. I opened the folder again, not to read it, but to look through it at the person who wrote it. Every clause, every condition, every clarification had her fingerprints on it. It wasn't greed. It was control. Madison didn't crave power because she enjoyed dominating people. She needed control to feel safe. And maybe that's the saddest part. Her love was just another system to manage risk. So I made my own system, my own plan. I started small. I stopped doing the things she took for granted. I didn't clear the table after dinner. I didn't fold laundry on her schedule. I cooked for myself, not for both of us. At first, she didn't notice. Then one night, She came home late and saw the dishes still sitting in the sink. She frowned. "You forgot again." "No," I said evenly. "I didn't." Her eyebrows lifted, that small, dismissive smile playing on her lips, trying to make a point. "Cute." I didn't answer. I just went back to what I was doing. Over the next few days, I spoke less. She filled the silence with instructions, updates, reminders, all the small ways she tried to pull the strings back into her hands. But the more she tried to manage me, the quieter I became. And for the first time, she was the one losing balance. One evening, over dinner, she asked directly, "So, are you going to sign the prenup or not?" "I don't know if I still want to get married," I said calmly. The fork froze in her hand. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I'm not sure I want to be a contract you manage." She stared at me, searching my face for weakness. When she didn't find it, her voice softened, almost gentle. "Ethan, if this hurt you, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. I just need security." "Security for you," I said. That silence between us wasn't peace, it was distance. And for the first time, she couldn't bridge it. She didn't know how. Madison was used to negotiating her way through problems, not feeling her way through them. That night, when she went to bed, I started packing small things, a few shirts, my work drives, personal papers. Not to run away yet, but to prepare. I wasn't going to storm out or slam doors. I was going to leave the way she respected most efficiently. 3 mornings later, while she was at work, I cleaned up my desk, grabbed my suitcase, and left the apartment. No note, no argument. Just one message on the counter: "I won't sign it, and I don't need your plan anymore." When she came home and saw it, she called me immediately. The phone buzzed for a long time before I picked up. Her voice was low, cold, steady, the voice she used when she was about to reassert control. "What are you doing, Ethan?" "Starting over," I said. There was a pause, just breathing. "Then you're making a mistake." "Maybe," I replied. "But at least this one's mine." I hung up. That night, I sat in a small rented apartment with nothing but a duffel bag and the hum of the city outside. It was quiet, really quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't ask for anything from you. For the first time in years, I wasn't being managed. I wasn't following someone's system. I didn't have a next step written out in a planner. It was terrifying and freeing. I didn't know where this would lead. I didn't know if she'd come after me or if I'd cave and go back. But I did know one thing: sometimes, to find yourself again, you have to walk away from the person who keeps writing your story for you. I thought she'd stay silent. Madison wasn't the type to chase. She was the type to calculate, to wait for the perfect moment to reassert control. But I was wrong. 3 days after I left, she showed up at my apartment. No text, no call, just a knock. 3 sharp, measured knocks. The kind she used at the office whenever she was about to step into a meeting she planned to win. When I opened the door, she was standing there in a long beige coat, hair pulled back neatly, face clean, cold. Beautiful in that intimidating kind of way that made you check your posture without realizing it. "You haven't been answering my messages," she said, tone flat. There wasn't anything to say. I replied. Her eyes swept over my small studio, the bare table, a single chair, my suitcase in the corner. She let out a small laugh. "This is your fresh start. You left everything for this." "Yeah," I said. At least I can breathe here. She stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. That was her style. Madison never asked for space. She took it. "Ethan, this is ridiculous," she said, setting her purse down. "You really walked out over a document. You're overreacting." "It's not about the document," I said. "It's about what it means. It's about how you see me." She crossed her arms, her gaze sharpening. "I just wanted clarity. You always say you hate confusion. What, now clarity scares you?" I stayed quiet. With Madison, silence always made her restless. She thrived on control, and quiet was the one thing she couldn't negotiate with. "What do you want?" she finally asked, voice clipped. "I came here to talk, not argue." "No," I said slowly. "You came here to get control back." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "You're being dramatic. I love you, Ethan. I want to marry you. You're the one who's running away from stability." I exhaled. "You don't understand, Madison. I didn't walk away because I hate you. I walked away because I can't live as part of your system. You turned us into a business plan." Her expression flickered, just for a second. Then she smirked. "You're making yourself the victim again. You always do that when you lose an argument." I almost laughed. "No, Madison. I'm just tired of being an employee in my own relationship." That made her pause. She didn't have a prepared response for that. She looked around the room again at the plain walls, the lack of structure, the messy little corner of my new life. "I don't get you," she said finally. "You could have had everything, a nice home, a stable life, a wife who plans for the future, and you chose this. A cheap apartment and uncertainty." I looked at her and said, "I'd rather live in a small place with peace than in a beautiful house without a soul." For a second, she looked stunned. Then she laughed, soft and humorless. "You and your philosophy. Life isn't about feelings, Ethan. It's about order, structure, responsibility. Love isn't chaos." "You're right," I said quietly. "But love also isn't a spreadsheet. It's a choice, and I've made mine." Her jaw tightened. "You're really ending this?" I didn't answer right away. I could see something new in her eyes. Not sadness, not anger, but fear. Madison didn't fear losing me. She feared losing control of the narrative. "Finally," I said, "I'm not ending anything. I'm just done living in a relationship where I have to ask permission to be myself." She sat down, her voice dropping low. "I didn't think it would go this far." "It didn't go far," I said. "It just went exactly where it was always heading." She looked at me then, lips pressed into a thin line. And then she said something that made my stomach tighten. "If you think you can live without me, go ahead, try." She stood, picked up her purse, and walked to the door. But before she left, she turned back, eyes sharp again, that same controlled, unshakable Madison. "You don't know me, Ethan," she said. "I don't let go of what's mine." The door closed softly behind her. Her footsteps echoed down the hall, fading. But her voice stayed in my head long after she was gone. "I don't let go of what's mine." I knew her well enough to understand what that meant. Madison wasn't finished. This wasn't over. And deep down, I could already feel it. The worst part was still coming. I thought Madison would finally let go. She'd always claimed she hated drama, that emotions made people irrational. But this time, she was the one who couldn't stop. It started small, subtle enough that I almost missed it. And that's what made it dangerous. 3 days after she left my apartment, I got a text from an unknown number. You forgot your watch at home. I can send it over if you want. Just that. No name, no punctuation out of place. But I knew it was her. Madison never confronted directly. She baited you with small, neutral sentences that sounded polite, even caring. I didn't reply. An hour later, I got an email from the bank. Our joint savings account had been emptied. Technically, it was under her name. Legally, I couldn't do a damn thing about it. She knew that. And she was sending a message. 2 days later, a coworker pulled me aside. Hey man, your fiancée called the office. Said she was worried about you. That you've been going through something. I froze. Madison had done it again. That fake concern wrapped in professionalism. She didn't yell, didn't threaten. She planted seeds. To my boss, to my co-workers, I was now the unstable one. The man who left his fiancée in an emotional spiral. That night, I called her. Why are you doing this? I asked. Her voice was smooth, almost gentle. Doing what? I'm worried about you, Ethan. You seem lost. Loneliness doesn't kill people, Madison, I said quietly. Manipulation does. She laughed, a soft, knowing sound. You're being dramatic again. I was just trying to help. But if that's how you see it, fine, but I knew her. Madison didn't stop when she said she would. She stopped when she won. Days later, mutual friends started reaching out. Hey, are you okay? We heard you've been dealing with some mental stuff. Her words recycled and repackaged through other people's mouths. She wasn't just controlling the narrative, she was rewriting it. So I started documenting everything. Every text, every email, every call. I even logged the times she appeared near my workplace. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I knew where this was heading. Madison wouldn't attack directly. She'd make people believe I was unstable. And once the line between truth and rumor blurred, she'd step in as the calm, understanding ex who tried to help. That was her strategy. I used to admire it. Now it terrified me. One evening, I saw her standing across the street as I left a coffee shop. She didn't say a word, just watched. That same steady gaze she used in meetings, calculating, assessing. I tried to ignore her, but then she called out, loud enough for people nearby to hear, Ethan, are you okay? Her tone was sweet, almost rehearsed. The voice of a woman concerned about the man who broke her heart. Heads turned. I felt 100 eyes on me. I replied evenly, I'm fine, Madison. You should be too. Then I walked away, but I could feel her smiling behind me. Later that night, I got a message. I'm glad you're doing okay. I only want what's best for you. It was harmless on the surface, but I could read between the lines. It wasn't about care. It was about control. Madison didn't just want me back. She wanted me to need her again. I realized that if I stayed silent, she'd corner me completely. Not with violence, she'd never need that. She'd do it with perception, with whispers, with her calm, perfect tone. So I started writing everything down. Not to prove her wrong, to remind myself I wasn't crazy. A week later, she called again. Can we talk? No, I said simply. She laughed softly. You don't have to avoid me, Ethan. We're adults. I just want to understand what happened. You understand perfectly, I said. You just don't accept it. There was a long pause. Then she said quietly, do you really think you're winning right now? Because if you do, You should know something, Ethan. Her voice dropped, cold and calm, almost affectionate. I've never lost. Click. The call ended, but her words stayed. I stared at the dark screen, heart pounding, not from anger, from fear. Not fear of her hurting me, but fear of the way she could make the world believe I was the one losing control. And knowing Madison, when she said she'd never lost, she meant she was just getting started. It escalated faster than I ever expected. Madison stopped texting, stopped showing up near my apartment. She didn't need to anymore. She'd found a smarter way, quieter, cleaner, more dangerous. One morning, I got an email from HR. An anonymous complaint has been submitted regarding your behavior. Attached was a document, long, detailed, professional. It said I'd been showing emotional instability, acting aggressively, and creating a hostile work environment. I didn't have to guess. It had Madison's fingerprints all over it, not in what it said, but in how it was written. She knew how to ruin someone without ever being in the room. I wasn't fired, but the damage was done. People looked at me differently. The room went quiet when I walked in. Conversations stopped when I passed by. My reputation wasn't destroyed in one blow. It was dismantled, piece by piece. That's how she worked. A few nights later, I got another email. No subject line, no name, just 5 words typed in bold. Stop before it gets worse. Attached were photos of me, leaving a cafe, walking home, standing by my apartment. Someone had been following me. I didn't need to ask who. I called Madison. My voice was steady. What the hell are you doing? Her tone was calm, disturbingly calm. I told you, Ethan, I don't lose. Madison, this isn't love, I said. It's sickness. No, she replied softly. It's balance. Then she hung up. After that, I changed my number, moved apartments, and took a leave from work. Not because I was scared, but because I finally understood. When someone like Madison decides to control the story, the truth stops mattering. I started writing everything down, the texts, the emails, the calls, every encounter since the day we met. Not for the police, not for revenge, for me. So I wouldn't forget what actually happened when she tried to rewrite it. And that's when I realized something. Madison didn't just want to win. She wanted to decide how I existed in everyone else's memory. And maybe that's the scariest kind of control there is. I knew Madison wouldn't stop. She never did. In her mind, I wasn't just someone who left. I was a loose thread that needed to be pulled tight. To her, control wasn't cruelty. It was survival. But what she didn't know was that I had my own plan. Not revenge, just an ending, so I went silent. No replies, no explanations, nothing. Madison thrived on reactions. They were her oxygen. Without them, she'd start to suffocate on her own thoughts. And that's what I needed. For 2 weeks, I disappeared completely. No social media, no phone calls, no mutual friends. I moved to another city, rented a small place by the coast under a different name. For the first time in years, my life was completely quiet. Then, one morning, I sent her a single email. You win. I have nothing left to lose. But sometimes, when people win too much, they forget why they started fighting. I didn't wait for a reply. I didn't need to. Madison never fought to destroy people. She fought to prove she couldn't be destroyed. That was her curse. And everyone who loved her got caught in the crossfire. I started writing again, not as evidence, not as therapy, just storytelling. I wrote our story exactly as it happened, cold, honest, and unpolished. I sent it anonymously to a relationship blog that focused on toxic dynamics. It wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming my voice. Within weeks, the story spread. People commented, shared, debated. Some said they'd loved someone just like her. Others admitted they had been her. And then, one afternoon, I got an email from an unknown address. Just one line: I read your story. You're right, I forgot why I started. No apology, no justification, just the truth, stripped of control. Maybe for the first time in her life, I didn't respond. I didn't have to. That night, I walked along the beach. The air was cold, sharp, but it felt clean. I thought about how love can become war when control replaces trust. How some people don't want partners, they want proof that they can't be hurt. And I realized something simple. Sometimes the only way to win is not to play anymore. I don't know where Madison is now. Maybe she's rebuilding. Maybe she's already found someone new to manage. But that's no longer my concern, because I finally learned what freedom really means. It's not about walking away. It's about no longer needing to prove anything.